All right, here we are living our best lives, end of the year, last Creatio online user group. What's better than a report? A printable report. Ooh, ah. So today, that is what we are discussing. Let me introduce your hostesses for today. Three lovely ladies with you this afternoon, people. Myself, the Director of Marketing, Deneen, Megan, our Director of Project Management, and Dana, our Business Analyst. I did have some questions prior to this event about the recording and accessing it for people who signed up but maybe couldn't make it. And I just want to always remind you guys, I always record these. I'm always going to send you out that recording afterwards. And if you want to reference it even later in the year or the month, and you can't find that email, all you have to do is go to our website, and you can go to the videos page on the Technology Advisors website, or you can go to our YouTube channel and you'll find them there in a handy little playlist of all the Creatio user groups that we've done so far. So with that, I'm going to, in addition to that, as we go through, of course, if there are questions, pop those in the chat and we will get to them. So I'm going to hand it over to Megan and Dana to take us away.
Thank you, Deneen. So today, just going over the agenda really quick, we will discuss, what a printable really is, different cases that a printable can be used for within Creatio. Megan will share how to actually build one within Creatio, so that'll be exciting. Discuss how to directly use the printables for your team. Share any marketplace add-ons, any new releases that Creatio recently announced, and then finally, Deneen will share some upcoming announcements or events that we should be really excited for. So just an overall overview, what is a printable report? So it's basically a document or report that is used to provide information about a specific section record. So for example, if I had an invoice section, I want to create a printable to print out an invoice that can directly pull information, and that is quick and easy for my team to access. So the great things about printables is that it can be configured within your MS Word plugin to display and all information that that is most importantly to you. It can also generate using data for a single record and the child data related to that record as well. So what are some printable use cases? So we talked about invoices. We have quotes. If you have a quote section, you can obviously use it to create quotes and pull that information in quickly. Contracts, that's huge and useful for very different many organizations. Even account summaries. So if you wanted to quickly show your team, what this account is and all the information you want to provide about that. Contact summaries, even minutes of meetings. So that's huge if you want to provide a quick overview to your sales about your quarterly sales meeting, for example. You can easily do that. And then in general, it can be used to mimic a specific form that you're currently using. So if your service team has a specific service form that they have to fill out weekly for their service manager, that could be used to mimic that as well.
All right, so now that we've talked about why you might want to use printables, let's talk about how to actually do it. In order to build a new printable or a new report template, it's another way to think about it, there's two basic steps that you're going to need to do. First, inside of Creatio, we're going to need to prepare the data. This is where we're going to tell Creatio what data we need to have available for our report. Once that's done, we can then go into Word to create the template. There is a Word plugin that you'll have to download from Creatio's website. It's available through Creatio Academy to build out the template. And then you'll sign into your Creatio site, choose which printable you want to edit, and then go ahead and build your template. So we're going to build a customer profile template today. So I'm going to go to my system designer page. And then go into the report setup, system setup menu here. And that will open up a new tab here for me where I can build my report. Now, there are technically two types of reports that you can build here in Creatio. We're only talking about the Microsoft Word report today, which is also commonly called a printable in Creatio world. The fast report requires development or programming, so that's a little bit beyond the scope of what we're going to be able to cover today. So like I said, what I'm going to be doing here is telling Creatio what data to make available for my report. I'm also going to do some basics like give my report a name and tell Creatio, where this report should be available to be used. So let's call this a customer summary report. And we're going to use that in the account section. This is going to give you a list of all of your sections, including any custom sections that you've built. And then there are two options for how users can generate the report. Do you want them to be able to generate it from the list view, or do you want them to be able to generate it from the record view? So I'll go ahead and check both of those boxes so we can see what those both look like. Frequently, I end up only checking the record page option in reality or in real life scenarios, but I do want to show you both options today. Then we're going to use the main part of the screen here to set up the data that we want to pull in. And you can see there's two different sections here. The top section is going to be used for pulling data, essentially data that there's only one of. So data directly from the account object or related objects that have a single related record. We can also pull in child tables of data. So things like a list of all the contacts for the account, for example, would be something we set up here as a table within our report. So let's start with the top with the report data. So we're going to be able to pull in any of our account fields here. And this should hopefully look pretty similar or familiar to you as an interface. You're just going to come in here and select whatever columns you want. You can type ahead if you know what you're looking for, or you can scroll up and down through the list if you're not sure what you need yet. And you want to just sort of, get that refresher of what all the different options might be. Let's pull in the address. And so it's easy enough to go in and select each of the columns that you want. It'd be nice if they made it a multi-select so you could get them all at once, but it's not too bad to click over and over again and get each column that you want to add. Any custom fields that you have, again, will automatically be in the list here. So no big deal. This is a custom field I created today called inactive. It's a simple checkbox field. You can also use the plus object here to connect to connected objects. Again, when you're doing that, you want to be thinking objects that have a single relationship. So maybe I want to pull in like the primary contact only and not the additional contacts. I could go to the primary contact and then pull in columns from there. I'm going to pull in the entire contact table, so we'll do that in a minute. For objects that have a logo, you can pull the logo image in this way as well. You just want to connect to that image object and then select the image field to get the actual picture that's being stored there. So we can put the account image or logo in our document as well. And setting up a child table is going to be similar. We're going to pick what table we want to use. So say we want a list of the contacts at our account. It should automatically fill in the rest of this data for you. What's the actual name of that table? What's the link between the contact table and the account table that we started with as our main object? So it's pretty good about filling that in, unless if you've got multiple relationships, you could go in and choose a different linking column instead of the one that it defaulted if there were multiple links between accounts and contacts, for example, and I wanted to use a different link. And then same thing, we're going to select which columns from the contact table we want to show. So we'll give the name and maybe a couple phone numbers and maybe their email address. And let's say that's all we want. There is an option here to hide the table if it doesn't have any data in it. So that's an option that will change how that table is displayed in your output in your report, whether or not you still want the table headers to show with no data if there happens to be no contacts in this case for the account, or if you want that table to just completely be left out of your report. We're going to do one more of these. We're going to do the activities. And again, you can see it auto-filled most of the, or all of the top data for me once I picked my object. And let's select some columns from our activity table. That looks pretty good. Maybe we'll do one more. Now, with any of these child tables, you can also set up filters. So maybe I don't want all the activities we've ever had with this customer. Maybe I only want 6 months or a year's worth of activities. I can go ahead and I can add a filter in here based on any of my fields. and go ahead and specify, what category of data or what subset of data I want to include in my report. And let's also say I don't care about emails, so we'll do the type does not equal email. And so this is using standard Creatio filtering, which I'm sure most, if not all of you, are pretty familiar with. Anything you can do with filters elsewhere in Creatio, you're going to be able to do here as well. It's the same underlying function. All right, that should give us enough data to play with in our report. So I'm going to go ahead and save this and jump over to Word to do the second part of this build out. So I've already got the Creatio plugin installed. Again, that link was available in the presentation, and I'm sure Deneen will send that out to you afterwards. Once you have that plugin installed, you just have to connect to your Creatio environment. You can have multiple Creatio environments saved in your list here. So if you have like a production site and a dev site, for example, it's just a matter of setting up what you want to call it and then the URL for that particular site. And then I'll just put in my username and my password here, and I'll be connected. Once you're logged in, you can then pick what report you want to edit. And if it's an existing report, it will open up the existing template. So just to show you that really quickly, let me pick one of these other ones really quick, and we'll see what that particular template looks like. And you can go ahead and edit it from there. We'll open up our new one. So this is going to start as just a blank document. Over on the right-hand side, you've got a list of all of the data that we selected for our report. So here are the fields that we picked from the account table on the top part of the report builder. And here are the tables that we set up at the bottom of that report builder. And we can just drag and drop or double click on any field from our data in order to add that into our report. And then you have, Word at this point. So anything you want to do in terms of formatting, you're welcome to use any of your Word formatting tools. Insert images and logos, set up your header however you want. If you want this data, on single lines versus if you want it in a table, you could go ahead and set it up in a table. In fact, let's go ahead and do that just for fun. We'll create a table here. So you've got pretty good flexibility in terms of how you want this data to display because you've got all of Word at your fingertips. And so it's just a matter of setting it up to do what you want. And actually, let's move this over here. And then we can put the image for their logo there. Oh no, I want you there. Thank you. And then I'm going to go ahead and hide the borders on my table. So it just looks like it's formatted pretty. Working with the child tables, the easiest way to do this is to just drag and drop the entire table from the header out, and it will add all of that data directly to your document with headers. Again, you could come in and manipulate this or edit this if you wanted to, but I'm going to keep this simple and just go ahead and add those into my report. If I want to put some sort of header on top of that, obviously, again, I could do that. And however I want this final output to look, we'll go ahead and just stick with that for now. When I'm done building my template, I'm going to go back into my Creatio tab here, and I can just save this to Creatio directly from within Word. And I should get a little pop-up message telling me that it's saved successfully. So at this point, my current template has been updated in Creatio to use the template that I just built out here in Word. And so if I come back over here to Creatio, well, actually, I should pause for a minute there because I have one more thing I want to show you first, and then I'm going to let Deanna talk for a minute. So the other thing I want to show you first is a little bit more advanced function that you can do when you're building out these templates using macros. So Creatio's got some macros pre-built for you that allow you to change how the data is formatted in your report. If you want to change how it shows, like, is it uppercase or lowercase text? Is it a date versus a date time? Do you want to use 1,000 separator, like a comma when you've got large numbers? How do you want your Boolean checkbox fields to show? So I included a list of, or a link to a list of the standard macros that are available. It is also possible to develop custom macros, although that is a developer or code level customization that would be needed. But I wanted to show you with my Boolean field, my inactive field, how to use one of those macros. So by default, a Boolean field is going to show up in your report as true or false. So if the box is checked, it's going to say true in your report. And if it's unchecked, it's going to say false. I was working with someone on a project recently and they said, you know, we really don't like that. We'd rather see like a checkbox or something else as in terms of the final output of that. So I did a little bit of research and that's where I came across this Boolean or this macro concept. In order to use a macro, I'm going to just edit the name of the field and add the macro at the end of it. And so this particular macro looks like this. And again, you would just look this up in that link to see exactly what that macro needs to look like. It is case sensitive. I accidentally put a lowercase b in at one point when I was setting this up for my customer and it did not work correctly. So you do want to make sure you get that set up exactly right. And then we will have to go back and update our template in Word as well. So let's reopen this report so that it picks up that change. And you can see it now shows up with that macro over here. And I did not actually even put that in my template yet. So let's add that in here and drop that right in. Let's save that back to Creatio. And then Deanna's going to talk to us about, now that we've built our template, how does someone actually use the template in Creatio?
Thank you, Megan. So if you go into our list view of our contacts or accounts, for example, if you select the row, you would want to generate that report simply by just clicking the print button if it's just one report. If you're using multiple reports, then you're going to click print and then you're going to choose that report name. So Megan will show that in a little bit. And then it's shown on the record page. You're going to open your record, which you want to generate the report for. You're going to click print, and then you're going to click that report name, that whatever it is that you want to print. And then finally, that's when the file will appear and it's generated, and then you can download it and print it as you please. So Megan, if you want to show us that really quick.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me come back here. I'm going to refresh the page just to make sure it knows about that printable. And then we'll go into the account section since that's where we built our new template. So this goes back to those two options, those two different options that Dana was talking about. Go to those two settings when we built the printable. Do we want to print it from the list view? So you can see I've got this print button here now that was not there before. It's also got a print menu over here, so I can pick which one if I had multiple documents to print from. And so I can print directly from here and it will print for this particular account. Or I can also do it, well, actually, there it is. So we can see that that worked. That looks pretty good. If I were to go into the record view, I also have a print menu here now. Same thing. I can then print from this page to print off that summary, and same thing, it's going to download that file to my computer. So it's just a matter of where you want your users to be able to do that print from. Does it make sense to do it from within the record view, and or does it make sense to be able to do it from the list view? Those were those two options we saw in the setup of the printable. So that's pretty simple and straightforward. One of the things that people frequently want to maybe tweak a little bit about that printable process is having the file saved to Creatio instead of having the file download to the user's computer. And one of the ways that you can do that is to generate the printable through a business process. So you could have this be a business process as the user runs just to create the printable, or it could be part of a larger business process that when it gets to X stage in the process, you want that printable to be generated. Creatio has added this as a standard function starting with version 7.17.2. So as long as you're on one of the more recent versions of Creatio, This should be available in your Creatio environment already. If you do happen to be on an earlier version of Creatio for whatever reason, there's a free add-on product that does the same thing that you can install. So you can still get this function on an earlier version. It's going to look slightly different, but it's going to have the same end result. And this one's pretty straightforward to use. Pretty much you're just going to pick that you want to generate a report, what report you want to generate. So in this case, I was generating an opportunity summary, what section that's going to pull from, which records you want this report to generate for. So you could generate individual reports for a group of records and save them under each opportunity, for example, or you can pass in a parameter to identify exactly which opportunity you want to generate it for. In this case, that's what I was doing, was passing in the opportunity ID for my filter here. And then select, what you want to do with that. So I want to save it to the object itself. And then you set up the, linking details to tell Creatio exactly where to save that. Again, the main reason, well, several reasons you might want to do this versus having the user click the print button. One is if you want the report to be saved to Creatio in the attachment section instead of downloading it as an attachment or as a file, really. And the second reason would be if you want to have it happen automatically. When you get to the proposal stage of the opportunity, you want Creatio just to automatically generate the proposal using the data the user's already put into the system. You could have it, automatically start that business process then and automatically generate that file and save it to Creatio. Speaking of marketplace add-ons, there are a number of marketplace add-ons that are relevant to printables that I wanted to just share and make you guys aware of. So one of them is an alternate way to do the same thing as that business process, which is have the printable saved to Creatio instead of download. So if that was the main reason you would use a process element, you can use this free add-on instead. What that add-on does is adds another button to the attachments detail to add a printable directly from here. And so I can go ahead and I can save that customer summary document right here just by clicking a button. And if I had 6 different printables, I'd have 6 printables in my menu there, same as my print menu would. So it still gives the user the job of generating the file versus having it be an automated process, but it saves the file into Creatio versus downloading to the user's computer. And so if it's important for you to have that file saved in Creatio, that would be the way to go ahead and tackle that solution or that problem. The next one I put in here is the earlier version of the business process element. So again, if you were on an earlier version of Creatio before 7.17.2, this would be your alternative to using that business process element we saw on the previous slide. And I threw in here as a bonus on this slide, one of my favorite free add-ons for Creatio is the refresh data button. So if you don't know this one already, I definitely recommend checking it out. This gives you a refresh button on every detail and every page in Creatio. So this one is nice enough, this add-on is nice enough to do that for you. When you add the printable, it refreshes the detail and shows it. But if it didn't, you could click that refresh button and it would then show you that list there. I find myself using this all the time when I have it installed for people. So it's definitely one that I would recommend checking out if you're not familiar with it. I haven't used this particular marketplace add-on, and there are a few alternatives as well. But if you really want a PDF file instead of a Word document, this is one of a few different tools that are out there on the marketplace that would let you build printables or reports in different formats. This particular one lets you do PDFs, HTML, or Excel outputs. It is a completely separate tool. It's not using the printable function we saw today at all. It does have costs associated with it. But that is a question I sometimes get when we're thinking about printables, is I really want it to be a PDF. So there are tools out there to do that. It's just that they are going to probably have some additional costs associated with them. And then finally, I threw a couple in here that make it a little bit easier for users to work with file attachments in Creatio. So the first one, excuse me, is a bulk attachment download that lets you select more than one attachment at once to download it to your computer. I do have this one installed as well. So you can see I have this download all button here that you may have never seen before. That's where it came from. And so I can click that and it will download all of the attachments for this particular customer or account. Or if I had like 5 files here and I just wanted 2 of them, I could control click or go into multi-select mode, and then I can download right here to download all the ones that I selected. And last one I put in here is if you wanted to put any additional fields into your attachments details, such as a category, this is another free one that lets you inline edit those fields. So if I wanted to put a category field or my description in here, right now this is double click in order to edit that. It makes it immediately editable right here in line. And I am apparently struggling with losing my voice here all of a sudden. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Deanna to talk about the next slide.
Thanks, Megan. So recently Creatio announced on October 12th, the new version is 7.18.4. So now you'll get alerts on the accounts and the contacts page whenever a record is identified as a possible duplicate. This still is in beta testing and it's using duplicate search rules. They also have some improvements on your Exchange calendar sync for real-time syncing and viewing participant responses. That is also in beta testing, but that's also a great improvement. So now you have the ability to configure export permissions on section by section basis. And then lastly, performance improvements for dynamic cases and the action panel as well.
Quick question, guys. When documents are saved in Creatio, can they be shared or distributed to specific key users?
Yes, you could do that as part of your process. So I think I would probably be thinking about doing that with that process element. One of the other options you can do after you generate the files would be email them to people through the process. So that would be one way you could send them out to people. You could certainly do a notification inside of Creatio in the notification center. And you could assign permissions based on whatever criteria you needed if you didn't want everyone to have access to those documents.
Thank you. Carry on.
I think that's actually it. So if there's any other questions, now would be the right time to send them over. Otherwise, Deneen, it's you.
All right. Well, if there are any other questions, speak now while I'm just going over these last couple things. First of all, thanks everybody for an awesome year of our user groups. We will continue those. The next one will be in February. You bet your pants that I will alert you to when that is occurring, so stay tuned. But meanwhile, the events that we do know the dates for right now, and which I will include in the follow-up, on February 8th, Creatio is releasing 8.0. It's a big event. They are very hyped up on it. A lot of cool stuff coming out in that release. So definitely want to check that out. I'll send that registration link to you. And then the Accelerate event is here in Chicago, May 26th through the 27th. We'll be there. We hope we'll see you there. And I will make sure to include that registration link as well in the follow-up email. And all those super helpful, awesome links that Megan and Dana put in this presentation about the marketplace add-ons and the Microsoft Word plugin and all that good stuff, that will also be in that email for you. So maybe that'll be an asset you want to bookmark in your email and save it for reference later. But I want to thank Megan and Dana. I want to thank you guys. I hope everybody has a warm and safe and healthy holiday season. Definitely looking forward to a fresh year, a lot of great things on the horizon, and just really appreciate you guys. So that's all for me. Anything else you guys want to add? It doesn't look like we have any other questions.
Not that I can think of. Thanks, Deneen. Have a great holiday, everybody.
All right,
Thanks,
y'all.
everyone.